Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Branch 458 podcast. This episode, we will be going over our branch's newsletter, talking about several important topics, but definitely stick around afterwards, and I will be talking a little bit about special route inspections, why they are very important right now in today's climate of management's traditional Chapter 2 route inspections. I'll get into what all that means. But here's the newsletter.
Hello, everyone. This is Eric Bew, NALC Branch 458 Executive Vice President, coming at you today to read you our June 2026 Sooner script. For those that don't know, it's the monthly newsletter that Branch 458 puts out for its members. If anyone who's not a Branch 458 member would like a copy, you can find it on our website, nalcbranch458.com, or you can contact us here at the Union Hall, 405-789-2220, and get added to our mailing list. Jumping right in, page one is a picture wishing everyone a happy Flag Day on June 14th. Page two is an article written by Branch 458 Vice President Casey Ritchie entitled Danger. Each morning, carriers come in, prepare mail for street duties, and then retrieve DPS from GPCs or GPMCs, which stands for General Purpose Mail Containers. Often, the DPS trays are stacked without any shelves separating them. I have referred to this as quote-unquote pancaked mail. This topic has been discussed in OKC safety meetings, district safety meetings, and various discussions outside of those meetings. Although management is in agreement that this is a safety hazard, it has been an endless conversation of what the problem is with little to no results. I think it's time to recruit the NALC's biggest assets, you. In cases where carriers must get their DPS tray from the bottom of the stack and sometimes at the bottom of multiple stacks, we are required to lift each tray, twist, place it on the ground, and finally lift and place the tray into a hamper/cart. This creates a lifting, twisting, bending motion that is not necessary. This also creates a trip hazard while the trays are on the ground. In some cases, the pancaked DPS is stacked on top of the racks, only making them top-heavy and more likely to tip over. In addition to the numerous safety concerns this has created, mail is often pulled out of delivery order in one tray as the top tray is being lifted off, causing delays in mail delivery. When the DPS is stacked or pancaked inside of the GPCs, it can also cause the trays to fall over as the trays beside them are taken, leaving leaning towers of DPS. In cases where there are no shelves, DPS trays should never be stacked more than 4 trays high. If they are, this is also a hazard. I recently escalated this issue to the Area Safety Committee to see if it can get resolved. In the meantime, if your office is getting mail pancaked and you feel it is a safety hazard, please report it immediately on a PS Form 1767 Safety Hazard Report. When anyone fills out a safety hazard report, it must be abated, so make sure you keep a copy for your records. If you don't want to submit the hazard yourself, there is a way to do it anonymously by asking your steward or a fellow carrier to fill it out for you, and that person would write anonymous in the section where your name would be recorded. Maybe together we can get this known safety hazard fixed. Signed, Casey Ritchie, Vice President. On page 3, we see pictures of GPCs. One has a GPC with shelves, the other one does not. And then it gives instructions. For GPCs with shelves, all tray labels are facing out. Fill any open spaces with an empty tray to keep mail in place during transit. Scan and mark placard as a sign and close before dispatch. And there's a picture of the placard with the assign and close boxes checked. For GPCs without shelves, all tray labels are facing out. Stack trays no more than 4 high. Scan and mark placard as assign and close before dispatch. And there's another picture with the placard showing assign and close boxes checked. On page 4, we have a recent announcement from the NALC. NALC launches the LMS Learning Management System. NALC is excited to announce the launch of a new online learning management system, or LMS for short, designed to deliver training to union representatives and members across the country. As explained in the March edition of the Postal Record, NALC has been developing the LMS in conjunction with VocalMeet, a company that helps organizations like NALC build online education programs. In addition to the development of the LMS, NALC has also been working on the creation of a standardized informal Step A training program to help shop stewards represent members on the workroom floor. The modules created for this program vary in length from 15 to 60 minutes and cover a variety of subjects NALC members and union representatives will find helpful. These modules include national agreement modules, which explain the articles of the contract. Some are covered in multiple modules. How to grieve modules, which explain how to take the contractual language and file a successful grievance. Grievance procedure modules, which explain how a steward can use the grievance arbitration process effectively. General education modules, which include other subjects a shop steward may need to be effective in their job. You can enter by first logging into the Members Only portal of the NALC website. Once you log into Members Only, the LMS is found in the Members menu. Simply bring up the menu on your device and select Learning Management System from the drop-down menu. You will be automatically directed to the LMS website where you can view all the modules available and begin taking classes. On page 5, we remember 2 of our members we have lost this last month. In memoriam, Robert Marshall Coleman, June 21st, 1936 to May 2nd, 2026. Robert Coleman passed away peacefully on Saturday, May 2nd, 2026. He was born June 21st, 1936 in Sumter, South Carolina, and was the son of Clarence Sr. and Rhoda Coleman. At the age of 17, he joined the United States Air Force and was awarded a Bronze Star for his service in Vietnam. He would go on to serve 20 years with the Air Force. While in the military, he was stationed in France. He met the love of his life, Suzanne Jodot. They married on February 16, 1957, and enjoyed 63 years of marriage together. After his time with the military, he became a letter carrier for 26 years with the United States Postal Service. Robert is survived by his daughters Kathy Lewis, David, and Carolyn Romero, Pat, 4 grandchildren, Chris Prieto, Daniel Molay, Jessica Dean, and Robert Romar, and 2 great-grandchildren. Charles Edward Campbell, October 5th, 1940 to April 2nd, 2026. Charles was born October 5th, 1940 in Colgate, Oklahoma to the late Mr. Grover Cleveland Campbell and Mrs. Beulah Graham Campbell. He departed this life April 2nd, 2026 at his home in Hilton. Raised in Colgate, Charles completed his schooling there, graduated with the class of 1958. On January 14, 1962, he married the love of his life, the former Miss Sandra Thompson, in Hilton, and together they made their home in Bethany, Oklahoma. His commitment to his country was unwavering, as demonstrated by his service in the United States Army after being drafted. Upon completing his military service, Charles embarked on a dedicated career with the United States Postal Service, where he served faithfully until his retirement. On page 6, we have scholarship news. Thanks to the following Branch 458 members who donated to the Branch 458 Memorial Scholarship Fund: Paul Guston, Steve Riggs, Eric Bew, and Ken Mayfield. As a reminder, 100% of all donations to the Scholarship Fund are used for the cost of scholarships for winners chosen annually by the Branch 458 Memorial Scholarship Committee. Applications are available for graduating seniors, including children and grandchildren of members, towards the end of the calendar year and are generally due by March 31st of each year. Conversions. Sharif Rose of Penn 89 converted to part-time flexible, PTF for short, this last month. Congratulations, Sharif. New members. Darren Reeves of Westside, Tyler Wilson of Midwest City, Bailey Thomas of Westside, Brandon Kendricks of Southwest, Robert Smith of Southwest, and Cash Coleman of Edmond. On the bottom of page 6, we have our QR code where you can go to our podcast. But obviously, if you're listening to this, you already know how to get there, as well as a scholarship donation form for you to fill out if you'd like to mail in a donation to our scholarship. On page 7, we include, like we do every month, a calendar with all of the birthdays for June. If you are celebrating a birthday in June and you do not see it on the calendar, please give us a call. We'd hate to miss anybody. That concludes our newsletter. The last page is a table of contents, upcoming events of our stewards training on June 4th and July 2nd, our branch meeting June 11th and July 9th, as well as the Zoom information for those who want to attend our meetings virtually via Zoom. I appreciate you listening to this podcast of our newsletter. If you have any suggestions, please feel free to reach out to us here at the Union Hall, 405-789-2220, or our email, nalc458okc@coxinet.net. Thank you.
All right, so as promised, here is a little bit of information about 271G special route inspections. But first, before I dive into that, currently management has been doing Chapter 2 traditional route inspections for the better part of 2 years. And what I mean by that is traditional route inspections is whenever there is a whole team of inspectors, usually they're managers from around your district. They come into your office and they do an entire week of the 1838C mail counts. They do 3999s where they follow you on the street, and they go through the entire, chapter two process of the M39. Typically, that's just referred to as the traditional chapter 2 route inspections. So there is within chapter 2 of the M39, section 271. And that's typically where it gets its name. That's where we all call it a 271G special route inspection. Carriers may request to have their route inspected anytime throughout the year. During traditional route inspections, there are 4 months of the year that they cannot go into an office and do route inspections. That is in December because it's peak holiday season, and then June, July, and August because it typically mail volume's lower and it's the summer months. A lot of school towns are closed. There's several reasons for it, but those 4 months are exclusionary periods, and they are not allowed to do Chapter 2 traditional route inspections. However, 271Gs requested by the carrier can be done any time of the year. They can be year round. So that's something to keep in mind whenever you are requesting a special route inspection on your route, if you believe you qualify. And I'll go over what those qualifications are in a minute. But just keep in mind, mail volume is lower in the summer months. Keep in mind election cycles. We get election mail and all that stuff. So of course we want to be mindful of those things. If you have an overburdened route, by all means, I would request a 271G. It's the only way to guarantee that you can get an inspection on your route. There is an avenue for management to request these special route inspections also in 271, section 271 of the M39, but they rarely go down that avenue. I'd say probably 99.9% of the time it is done either by a traditional Chapter 2 or a 271G requested by the carrier. So how do you qualify for a 271G? You qualify if your route, not the carrier, but the route. So this is anytime. If you go on vacation for 3 weeks, if you're gone OWCP, if you get injured, whatever reason, it's the route. If the route is 31 minutes or more over, you need overtime or auxiliary assistance, 31 minutes or more for 3 days a week for 6 consecutive weeks. So at least 3 days in a week for 6 consecutive weeks. And it's any 6 weeks. Usually, whenever carriers request this 271G, something happens. We had a very bad ice storm in January of this year, and mail volume was down just because trucks weren't running. Carriers weren't able to come to work. Management, mail handlers, the entire postal service had trouble getting to work in the end of January because of this ice storm. So, of course, volumes went down because mail volume was not there. And times went below the 31 minutes that's required. So, management likes to use those 6 weeks. But if it's any 6 weeks, you go over 31 minutes or more for 3 days in a week for 6 consecutive weeks, you qualify for a 271G. All you have to do is put it on a 13, put it on a piece of paper that, I'm on Route 1 and I'm requesting for it to have a 271G special route inspection. You would get that signed by management saying that they received it. And I would definitely make a copy of it, take a photo of it, do whatever you have to do to prove that you turned it in. And the reason that that is so important, and I'll go to the language here in M39 section 271G. If let me go to the right part. So the regular carrier assigned to such route shall, upon request, receive a special mail count and inspection within 4 weeks of the request. And then it goes on to say the special route inspection provided for in M39 section 271G must be conducted in the exact same manner as a regular count inspection conducted under the provisions of M39 Chapter 2. So if your route is overburdened, you are constantly putting in for overtime or auxiliary assistance, management's just constantly on you about you're not meeting the times that they're projecting, which is a whole nother issue I think we've talked about in this podcast and previous episodes. Then you might qualify for a 271. And a lot of people are kind of on the fence whether they want to put in for it or not. And there's definitely some pros and cons to it. I would say that the 271G is a very strong avenue for us to use as carriers because it forces them to look into your route. It forces them to have a route inspection on your route any time of the year, whenever you request it. Now, more times than not, whenever a route requests a special route inspection and it's granted by management, they will go ahead and do the entire zone. But like I talked about earlier, Chapter 2 inspections, traditional inspections, they have those 4 months where they cannot do route inspections, right? In December, June, July, and August. So if a route is getting close to the June, July, August, like we are right now, and they're maybe just on the fence because they don't want their entire office to be counted, now is the perfect time to put it in because you put it in now, they have 4 weeks to do it, and they cannot put in the whole zone. They can't because June, July, August are excluded. So keep that in mind. It's something to think about. And I think this is a way for us to force them to go into offices and we can kind of control the narrative. We can control where they're going. And what I mean by we is the carriers, us. Instead, what they're doing is they're going into offices and they're just slashing times. They're going in there and they're deducting time for frivolous reasons, and they're cutting routes, and it's just bad. So the more 271Gs that are requested, legitimately requested and approved, then we're the ones controlling where they go. If they're doing these 271Gs at our request, then they have to go in those offices. But if we just sit back and let them go in offices and, oh, they'll get to it when they get to it. They're going into the offices that they want to go into. So, definitely a benefit for us for several reasons. We can get an 8 hour route, which I think we all deserve. We can control where they go. We can control kind of when it's done, and anything I'm missing, right? If your request is denied, definitely file a grievance on that. Get with your steward. If you're an activist out there, look into the latest postal record that you should have gotten in your mailbox within the last week or so. And if you're listening to this at a later date, it is the May 2026 postal record on page 45. Gives a lot of good information on special route inspections, kind of what management looks at and why they deny it. Typically, they deny special route inspections because they claim that you have deficiencies on your street time. So they've done 3999s with you, they've done street observations with you, and they claim that you have street deficiencies that you haven't corrected yet. So that's the reason they're denying it, which more times than not, that's a load of crap. That's just something that they throw out there, the reason they're denying it. The other reason that they deny it is because they've just recently done a Chapter 2 traditional route inspection in your office. They severely messed it up and they added way too much territory to your route. And so you requested 271G. Well, then now they're denying it because they still have to do the review for the traditional. And so they're like, oh, well, we'll get it in the review. We'll fix it in the review. That's not a legitimate reason to deny a 271G request. So definitely check out page 45 of the postal record in May of 2026. And with that, I'll keep this episode a little bit short for you today. I appreciate you guys listening. And like Eric said, he gave the email. We also have the email for this podcast. It's branch458podcast at gmail.com. If you guys have any comments, questions, concerns, as always, you can send them there. And we appreciate you guys listening. Have a good one.